Porsche 944 is an interesting car. The early, non-turbo models weren't particularly powerful or fast. What it is, though, is well-balanced and extremely fun to drive. Nowadays, you can pick up a decent non-turbo 944 for not a whole lot of cash money. But before we get too far into this, let's take a step back. Joyrides is made up of a group of friends. And this is Jake. He's my best friend and is married to her, August. His father always loved Porsches and owned a few of them over the years. But his first Porsche was a Guards Red 944. This was the car that Jake learned to drive a manual on and taught him driving skills he's used to this day. He's got a lot of memories tied to that car. His love for the 944 and Porsches came from his dad. We had been talking about a project car for years, and the 944 was always in the running for that very reason. Yeah, we thought about MR2s, Supras, old Mercedes, Nissans, and trucks, but we'd always come back to what about the 944? Now, Jake's dad had been dealing with Alzheimer's for many years, and in January of this year, 2020, his dad got sick and unfortunately couldn't recover. His birthday was coming up, and I wanted to do something special for him. Sure, I could have bought him some funny Toyota merch to go along with his Tacoma TRD Pro, which I did, but I wanted to get him the car he's been wanting for years. What about the 944? So along with his wife August and our friend Amy, we schemed together, and I hunted for the perfect Porsche 944. Not the cleanest 944, not the most expensive or the fastest, the right 944. The perfect combination of project and great driving experience. I knew his dad's was red, but he's been wanting a white car for as long as we've been talking about projects. That's when I found this, a 1985 and a half naturally aspirated Porsche 944. It was a decent price because it had a rebuilt title, which normally I'd stay away from, but this time I made an exception because of the guy that was selling it. The car had been stored in a freaking hangar alongside other classic cars. I talked with the seller and found out the guy restores and judges restorations of classic Corvettes. To say this guy was fastidious is an understatement. Any accident or damage the Porsche had suffered would have been repaired properly and not just slapped together with a fresh coat of paint and held together with sticks and glue. I went down to look at the car and told him the story. Turns out his father passed away a few months earlier, and his dad is who he got his passion for Corvettes from. It felt like this was meant to be. This Porsche was meant to be in this place at this time, and that we were the ones meant to buy it. So we let the seller in on the scheme. The setup was that we were coming down on my friend's birthday to shoot a video about his Corvette and to cover a chassis restoration judging session. While it took some convincing that this was a great way to spend his birthday, getting up at 8 in the morning and driving an hour away to shoot a video, he agreed and thought, yeah, this would be pretty dope. Unbeknownst to him, a Porsche was waiting for him. After an uneventful drive, we get there and the 944 is parked outside the hangar, behind the seller's own 911. Jake made a beeline to the 944 and wanted it so bad. We go inside to a bunch of people sitting in chairs going over the plan for judging this Corvette's chassis when the seller tells the story and reveals that this was all a ruse and that his Porsche 944 was for sale and that we bought it for him for his birthday. Seeing it click with him that the 944 he made a beeline to earlier was his made all the scheming, all the agony of not being able to shout, "We got you a Porsche," worth it. We took the car for a nerve-wracking drive home in the rain. Oh, and did I mention it had summer tires on it, Toyo Proxies? It was a butt-clenching drive home to say the least, but when we got it back and took a look at it, he had a Porsche. The same kind of Porsche his dad had. The same kind he learned to drive a manual on. Finally sitting in the garage, and it was his. With all of its alpine white paint, dirt, and grime, black rear spoiler, wide fenders and chonky wheel design custom 19-inch wheels with thick boy tires in the rear. I mean, look how meaty those tires are. The classic 80s brown interior had clearly seen better days. The dash was cracked, the carpet was dirty and faded, and underneath that, the drain in the spare tire well had been plugged with debris and was a disgusting rusty lake. This was gonna be fun. But before we were gonna decide on a direction to take the car, we had to get it looked at, and an awesome local shop couldn't have been more stoked to help us out. Chris's German auto shop inspected the car and it was given a clean bill of health, for the most part. There are a few things we need to replace, like the belts, the tires, some switches, and the motor mounts, but the engine is strong, suspension and transmission are solid, the frame and body are straight and ready to be brought back to its former self. So far, we've pulled out all of the carpet, all of the seats, cleaned up all of the grot and grime, taken care of all of the surface rust, repainted and resprayed portions of it, added sound foam, replaced the broken speakers, and hopefully soon, everything will be ready to go back in so that we can drive it again. It won't be a 1,000 horsepower monstrosity or put down 9-second quarter-mile times or set lap records anytime soon. But what it will be is some of the most fun you can have on 4 wheels for this much money. Being able to drive around town in the 944 together just feels right. It puts a smile on your face. But more than anything, it was a connection to the past. My best friend would be reminded of his dad every time he goes out to the garage. Every time he fires up that 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine, and every time he drops it down a gear and blasts down a mountain road, as giddy as he was back when he first learned how to drive in one. So hug your family and friends, and be sure you take them out for a joyride.